Hey everyone, and welcome to another Photoshop tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to create amazing holiday image, the image that will impress your friends and the image that will impress you. So a few weeks ago I was in Philippines. I took few images of my girlfriend. So it's like a swimwear image, really nice holiday image, and I'm going to show you how to make it absolutely outstanding. So a little bit longer tutorial. I decided to make longer tutorials. I see that people prefer their longer tutorials and not just a short tips. And also make sure to check out my Instagram to stay in touch with me, because many images that I post on Instagram, maybe some of them you like, so then you can just let me know, I really like this image, how did you do this, make a tutorial on this, and then I can make a tutorial on this. So let's jump into Photoshop now, and I'm going to talk about the image we're going to work with, and then of course the tutorial itself. So here's the image we're going to work with, and this is the final product. I think it's a little different than my first attempt, because this one I like so much better. And this is image before. Actually, this is already after raw conversion, and this is the final result. So if you like it, stay with me. We're going to do raw conversion. We're going to edit this image in Photoshop to achieve this or similar result. So I'm going to close this, and we're going to start from the very beginning. I'm not going to save this, and this is already processed image, and here is the image that wasn't touched. So we're going to start with the raw file. I'm going to reset adjustments just to make sure that nothing was done, and of course we have also this really bad perspective. So I'm going to show you how to fix the perspective to start with in the right way. So what we do in Camera, first of all, we are creating this to make it comfortable for us to retouch, but of course this is not the fashion image, and not beauty image. This is your personal image, so there will be slightly different approach. Just think how you like this image to look like since the very beginning. First of all, I want to really fix the perspective. It's horrible, so I'm going to make it straight. To make it straight, you go into this panel, which is, transform tool, which is something like a crop tool, but a little better than crop tool in many cases. If you want to fix the perspective, that's probably the best way to do it. And then, of course, we need to adjust the scale once you adjust everything. And it's quite difficult to find out if this line is straight. So what I would recommend you to do, just go down with this image to the very bottom, and you can see on the bottom if the lane, the water is straight here. So going this way really allows you to see things a little better. And I think we are around the right spot. So I would just go back with the image with the offset Y and put this on this place. Now it's nice. Straight. The reason why it wasn't straight, I was putting camera closer to the water, so couldn't really see if it's straight. And then I'm going to the editing itself. I want to bring up some blacks because I can see the hair are a little dark here, so I will see if it can actually work. It does slightly work. I'm going down with the shadows, and the highlights I'm going to keep at its place right now. I don't want to manipulate with the highlights right now. The highlights, better to do it at the very end. Clarity also, I'm not going to do this now, but what I want to do a little bit more with the blue color with the sky here. So I'm going to hue saturation luminance panel here in Camera. I'm dragging down the blue. So how far I can go? I could probably go -100, but remember, images are not equal, so don't do this to every image you want to do. Just this image doesn't affect this image so much, so I can do it. So I basically drag down the luminance. Also, I drag down the saturation for the blue color, so it's not like too saturated, because it can become too saturated sometimes. What else I would do here? I want to maybe increase just a little bit of orange color here, and just a bit of yellow color. So this is the right preparation for it. I'm gonna press P so we can see the transformation we did now in camera. So this is before, this is after. I think we got already a little bit better climate here, so it's a good start. And we're not going to hit open image, but what we want to do, we want to press shift so we open this as an object. Thanks to this, we can work non-destructively as always. And the first step we're going to do in Photoshop is always clean up. So I'm creating an empty layer. I'm going to name this clean. Someone asked me recently why it is so important to clean on an empty layer and not on the actual layer. And I was surprised because I always repeat, it's non-destructive on the clean layer. You can always see your progress. Once you remove your background layer, you can see your progress, where it's clean, where are imperfections. If you do too much, if something doesn't work, you can always see it. You can always easily work with even the tool like eraser tool. Even I don't do it. Usually I would create a mask, but it's no offense to use eraser tool on empty layer. So it's all about being non-destructive, about keeping things separate. If you work on actual layer, well, you have no way back slightly to reverse things or to fix it. So that's why I always clean layer. I'm going to zoom in to the body, small size of the healing brush tool. Always work with healing brush tool, hard edged brush. And I'm going to start cleaning. So I'm going to remove all of the imperfections, and I don't have to be that precise because it's not a close-up image. It's just a holiday image. It's for your own resources, more likely, or maybe your influencer. So yeah, that's still your own resources. It's not that visible. On the first image, I actually used my LUTs. So if you're interested with the LUTs, work great on the images. Works actually perfect on the image which you could saw before. The links are in the description. So if you want the LUT, check the link in the description. Get the LUTs and save your time doing contrasts and color editing. I'm also switching sometimes to the clone stamp if I want to clean closer to the edges. If I have some bumps and things like this. So on the back we have a lot of sort of small discolorations, and I don't want to use a lot of dodge and burn or anything like that because it's waste of the time. So I will try to clean it as much as I can just with the healing brush. Also, there's not so much cleaning. We have some stretches here. Quite common thing as well. I usually don't remove moles. Now, I probably did this because of rush, so it's not something you have to do. Have some things on the legs here, so it would be good to do. Not sure what is it. It might be some bruise. So just a little bit more here, and then we can jump to another thing. Okay, so now I'm going to open the curve adjustment layer. I'm going to name this dodge because I want to brighten a few things. So I'm going to bring up this dodge adjustment layer just like this, and I'm going to invert this. So if I'm going to paint with white color on this layer, I'm going to brighten up things, but I don't see where I should do it. So I'm basically going to hue saturation. I'm going to desaturate this image, change blending mode into color, so I will not affect the luminosity values. I want to increase some of the contrast by curves. It's all just for me to make sure I see the imperfections well. So it also helped me with cleaning a little bit more. I actually need to turn it off because I didn't clean up the face, which is probably the most important, but the face is like in the big shadow, so it won't be that visible, but yeah, like it just has to be clean here. So I'm activating this again, and I'm going to work with brightening just a little bit. It's really not so important to do this super selective, super detailed. Just look from the distance. Something's wrong. We have some line here. I wonder what's that. It must be some water. So this is actually easy to remove by healing brush. You can see. So don't think of touching this with dodging and burning, because that will be just waste of the time. A little bit more here to even out. Okay, and a little bit on the legs. We'll have few imperfections, but I'm not going too far. You see we have a lot of lights here. I'm not going to work on this because this is natural light and they actually look nice. They come from the sun, obviously. So you don't want to really knock it down because it's something special for this image, and it's actually nice. So I wouldn't recommend like taking this down, painting over it. Also, it will give you not really nice and not natural effect if you go all the way with this. But of course, if you see stretches like here, that's the good thing to take care of. This is not the light, this is just the stretches here. So we can paint a little bit, brighten up, so the area will look slightly better. Have a look. We could also use another curve that would be darkening and fill up the rest of the stretches. So the other one could call burn. Lower this a little bit and invert this the same way. So I'm going to fill some other marks here. And that would be probably it. As you could see, not so much work if it's about the parts here. I still have this weird mark here that I didn't notice before, so I will try to do it with healing brush. And that's it. So now time for some color grading, the part many of you could actually wait for. So I can turn off this too. I will put all of this to the group. I'm gonna hit the clean layer, then the burn layer, Command or Control and G, and I'm going to call all of this clean. This water doesn't look nice, I also noticed, so I'm going to clean this up here. So when it comes to color grading, there's few different tools you can use. The most common tool I am using is always color balance. So I would have to decide what I want to do here, and I have two colors to work with. One color will be orangey, which is the skin, and I have a lot of blue color, also located a lot of blue in the highlights, so I would probably go this way. I'm gonna name this grading 1, and let's see how the color balance will work in this case. So the shadows, I would go a little warmer with them. Not really too much. Midtones, just touch of yellow to the midtones and highlights on majority of this cyan and blue. See, I think the skin can be a little too yellowish, so adding more red to it. And I think this is somewhere I do really like. The next step, we can use similar grading. I could do gradient map. So grading 2, just an example, you can actually use one of them only. And we can select the color for our shadows first. So that was, of course, the orangey color we have. And I would go with the hue around 30 and a little darker, because we also want to like get some nice contrast here. And for the highlights, I'm going to go with like really soft cyan color. Let's see how does it work. We might need to change it, but it does work a little. It's too harsh. I think it gives you really great effect, but it does work harsh. For example, on the face and some other areas. So this is not something we actually want to use it. It's really great effect, but it would be better to be careful to not affect the dark areas that much. So what I would do in this case, I will go in selective color instead. And I'm going to work more selectively, for example, with the blue color, for which I want to add a little bit more blue, a little bit more cyan as well. And we can also work a little bit with blacks. Reds as well, we can add a little bit of yellow or decrease it, work with magenta just a little bit, so we can get even better balance on the column. But then, by the fact that we were not able to work with gradient map because of these shadows, I would like to work with the shadows and highlights separately now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create the curve adjustment layer. I'm going to name this highlights. I'm going to copy this by pressing Command or Control and J, and the copy will be shadows. And then also remember grading, I'm going to change the color to not affect the lights. So the highlights image, apply image, and just for this, if the layer is merged and blending multiply, you will be able to define your highlights. And then if you want to define the shadows, you simply will make selection on here and apply this to the shadows. So highlights, and I'm going to go up with my highlights, of course. And then I'm going to the shadows, image, apply image, and I'm going to invert this. I could also copy this, but inversion is okay. And with the shadows, I'm going to decrease it just a little bit. And I'm going to change blending modes of these two from normal to luminosity, so I will not affect the saturation values, which would be really big now. One thing I want to do in the shadows, this area is still very dark, which I don't like. So I'm going to paint it with color black. So this area will not be affected by our shadows. And on highlights, paint here a little bit with the color white to brighten up the face. So we'll have more equalized picture. I'm going to put this now to the group all together. I'm going to name this colors and lights. And at the end, I'm going to create a stamp. So I'm pressing Command, Option, Shift, and E because I work on Mac to create a stamp. If you're working on Windows, that will be Control, Alt, Shift, and E. Very similar. I'm going to name this as a stamp. And now convert, hit right, Control, hit right, convert to smart object once again to work non-destructively, and we'll go to camera raw to do final adjustments, really harsh colors. This is the key I want to do. So filter, camera raw, filter, and obviously I want to go with contrast. I want high contrast, I want stronger highlights, and clarity I want really strong. I can see I'm affecting the shadows here. It creates some unpleasant vignette, so straight away I would go to fix post-crop vignetting, and I'm going to brighten this up just a little bit so my corners won't be that ugly affected. Then hue, saturation, luminance, taking down the blues. I want the hue different, I want more cyanic, just like this, just as my image had. The saturation a little down in this case, and then you can even add a little bit more clarity, more contrast if you want this image to be really outstanding. Also, I want to desaturate the image. I like nice, clean, harsh desaturate effect, desaturated. We could get a little lower, and we can also do a little bit more here. For example, I'm going to increase the luminance on these two color, yellow and orange, the body colors, so it increases a lot of the highlights, and I'm going to take down some of the saturation, maybe too much. I don't want to make it look way too much, but really camera allows you to go really far with anything you like. And let's have a look. Now we have this really nice hard contrast, and you can go even further. You can add one more layer of grading. I don't want to go too far in this case in the presentation video, so I will stop on this. Of course, you could probably brighten up the face a little bit easily with curves. Have a look. We can brighten this up, invert, and with white color, if you think it's still too dark, you just brighten it up here. So it's very easy process. So this is it. This is how I like to process my images in quick way. It's not necessarily every single time the same thing, the same looking thing, but the point is to be consistent and use the same theme for your images. If you process, you have blue, I go the same with blue. I have oranges, I go the same with oranges. I like strong contrast and all of these things. Of course, you can avoid the process like color grading and lights by using my LUTs. The link is in the description if you want to buy my LUTs. It will allow you to adjust your image, to add color grading and contrast just with one click. I have video on this channel that shows you how to use the LUTs after you download them. So if you want to download LUT, the link is in the description. And here's the example. Of course, not this. For example, you can use a classic cube and it transforms your image just with one click. You can use not this one, that's not mine, the royal cube, and this will give you a little different effect. So the effect just with one click, of course, just like this, maybe a few steps back. So this was the result, and we could go further and further, just as much as you need to achieve the desired image by you. Thank you for watching, and I'm going to see you probably next week, Thursday. I might do some review because I got some software and I was thinking I could review this, and because maybe some of you actually using this software, and then the video would appear probably around Sunday, I would assume. But the regular video, the long tutorial, next Thursday, and also preparing few extra things, course on how to create the LUTs, and some videos on Skillshare. Thank you, and I'm going to see you next time.